Assalamu alaikum, and peace be upon all of you. If you don't understand what Assalamu alaikum means, peace be unto you. That's all it means. It's not rocket science. It's not difficult to understand. It doesn't involve anything to do with terrorism. Okay, so there's no bombs under your seats. Okay? And just to hasten forth, we mean you no harm. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto all of you from London, from St. James's Park. I mistakenly called it the Stadium of Light earlier on. Please forgive me. There is no light here. It's dark outside anyway. But I'd just like to sort of welcome you and explain who I am, really. Sometimes I don't even know who I am, actually. Frankly speaking, you know, I wake up day on and day out and you know, I look at the media. You see, I turn the TV on. Sky News, BBC. And I think to myself sometimes, I don't really want to be alive in this world. It's a pretty difficult place to be, regardless of whether you're black, white, Newcastle United football supporter or a Bristol City supporter like me, for my sins. It's difficult if you're a Muslim wearing a hijab. Hijab is the covering that women put on their hair. And it's difficult if you're a Muslim. It used to be very difficult if you were black in this country. And I hail from an area in Bristol called St. Paul's. I spent a lot of time there. And our topic tonight really addresses the issue of community cohesion. What exactly is community cohesion? It's a difficult one. It's one that the government's struggling with, the police that I'm working with are struggling with, the youth workers are struggling with, and frankly speaking, I don't know anyone who even understands the term community cohesion. It's a difficult one. An analysis of modern Britain. This is what it's entitled, but of course I can't do justice to the topic so vast as an analysis of modern Britain in 60 minutes or even 60 hours or 60 days. But what I can do is touch on some pertinent points from an Islamic perspective, from a human perspective, as Muslims consider every single human being in this planet to be the children of Adam and Eve. And this is what I want to present to you tonight. Real community cohesion means that I want to address you as the children of humanity. Not as Muslims, as Bengalis, as Newcastle people, or Bristolians, but as human beings of the wonderful network of diverse cultures and communities of religious groups. Some of them very good, some of them not so good. Some of them following paths which are harming us. Some of them following paths which are adding wonderful benefit to our culture and our society, our wider society in Britain today. Community cohesion. This is where we start from. We look at fear of violence and crime in our society today. And later on, our fellow colleague, the guy who's coming now, you know his name? What's his name again? Tupac, was it? No, he's dead, right. Anyway, he's coming and he will explain from first-hand evidences, from first-hand anecdotes that, you know, getting involved in crime, in violence, in drugs, in prostitution, in gangs, ain't no good. In his words, it's going to be like that. Breaking point is what I really want to discuss with you guys is there a point now we have to sort of stop, you know, in our tracks, think for a while, contemplate, discuss with other people of different faiths and different cultures and different ethnic backgrounds. Have you got any ideas about how we can get on better? This is community cohesion. True community cohesion is not about, I heard it in the Daily Mail, and you guys are bad. I turned on the BBC and the story told me that you guys are all terrorists. This is the way, unfortunately, that we people, we find out about each other. Instead of going to each other, addressing each other, identifying with each other, trying to understand each other's needs, concerns, as neighbors, as fellow citizens, we look at the media, and 85% of the non-Muslims here find out about Islam through, you guessed it, the tabloid journals. Wow. No wonder we hate each other. I'd hate you. I'd hate the Muslims if I read those things every day. Thank God I meet them and I celebrate the differences and the similarities between Muslims and non-Muslims. But I want to also end with a discussion about Sharia. You know, Sharia or Islamic law, because there's a lot of confusion there. Of course, Bishop Rowan Williams has made some statements about Sharia, taken totally out of context by our national media. In my understanding, he's a good Christian guy who just wanted to say a few words. He didn't want to harm anyone. And funnily enough, the Muslims didn't even get involved in this discussion. You know, the non-Muslim audience is out there, institutions and the media engaging with one another, discussing this topic. And really, the people they should be asking are the people who know about Islam and Sharia law. But it didn't happen. And this is partly because of the lack of ability of Muslims to really get involved in the wider, in the mainstream. They've been isolated for too long. 9/11 made them go out and reach out into places they'd never been before. Star Trek. You remember Star Trek? Boldly go where no man has gone before. No, you're all too old. Come on. You must have watched Star Trek in the past. Star Trek. Oh, okay. See, I didn't watch it. Right. So, look. I want to show you this to start with. You want to read it, but don't read the sixth. Anyway, the problem is that these something people are rubbish in their own country. They come over here, they bring nothing except problems. They have no interest about us and our ways. They just live among their own. Who said that? And why did they say it? Put your hands up if you know. You got any ideas? I'll accept any answer. Who said it and why? Bush? Oh my God. Yeah, he would use that word actually. Right, anyone else with any other suggestions? This is a serious comment. I mean, it's a pretty awful comment to start with. Anyone else? BNP. Who are they? Are they here? I don't think so. I don't think the BNP would say things like that, would you? Do you really? Maybe. Anyone else? Hey? Okay, listen, I'm going to tell you. You ready? You ready? Can you read it? This is who said it. A quote from an angry Spaniard referring to the 300,000 Brits that go to the Costa del Sol and ruin their lives in Spain. Our favorite European friends, our favorite, you know, we love the Spaniards. We love going on holiday there. Huh? We've all been there, haven't we? I've been there a few times on the Costa del Sol. Back in the days, we used to go there. And this surprises me. But what does it indicate to you? It indicates that we need to sometimes turn the stuff around, put the boot on the other foot. And we need to engage with new ideas. This is a new idea. For most people, they would never have guessed that that statement would come from a Spaniard and talking about us Brits. So it's like that when you're wearing a hijab sometimes. Not that I wear hijabs, right? But my wife tells me that, right? It's like that when you are engaged, as a different cultural, religious group within a majority. You're a minority within a majority. And community cohesion is about breaking down those barriers. But it's about having a level playing field. A level playing field to discuss those things. A forum where we can all, you know, understand one another and have a better shared common future for everyone. Really, I think that's what this is all about tonight. This is what this event is about. And this is wonderful that, you know, we've got so many people. It's a shame sometimes that it has to happen because the media get involved and say that's this guy who, you know, became Muslim, who used to be a gangster, is coming down to town. It should be that we just call each other and say, we've got this fantastic event, fantastic venue, we've got some great guys coming down, come and join the party. And we come down. But it didn't happen like that. It happened because we are obsessed with the media. And we listen to the media. We don't listen to our mothers and fathers' kids. We don't listen to the teachers. We don't listen to our police officers on the beat. We cuss them, we curse them, we cuss our mothers. This is the way we've become. And I'll show you through quite a number of social indicators that we have become like that. And it's really shameful. Regardless of race, color, culture, creed, color, gender, we're all like that now. We're all like that. Why? And what can we do to address the needs of our wide community and to get on well for better common futures for everyone? This is it. Now this is a statement. I want you to read this statement because I want you to know the Muslim community a little bit better. This is what they were one day. It's not what they are now. This is the statement. Yet there were knowledge and learning everywhere, except in Catholic Europe. At a time when even kings could not read or write, a Moorish king had a private library of 600,000 books. At a time when 99% of the Christian people were wholly illiterate, the Moorish city of Cordoba had 800 public schools, and there was not a village within the limits of the empire where the blessings of education could not be enjoyed by our children of the most indigent peasants. And it was difficult to encounter even a Moorish peasant that could not read or write. We're talking about an age around between 700 to 14 or 15, the late 15th century. This is Spain in the 15th century, where that Spaniard was talking from, right? The one who said he hates the Brits because they destroy their life, they don't care about us, and we don't. Spain started off like this. There was a period of 800 years of Muslim rule where people lived under Sharia conditions. The Christians used to live together. The Jews would live together. And many Jews consider that that was their golden age of Judaism in that period of 750 years. In 1492, the Muslims lost their power. And the Christians came and took over their lands. The Christians were told, you either leave or you die. Okay? Sorry, the other way around. The Muslims were told, you either die, or you leave. Don't lie. Well, they had to lie, actually. It's not a lie. They had to lie to stay, because they had to say that we're Christians. This is a terrible event in 1492. Yet, in 1992, 500 years later, the World Peace Talks were held in Barcelona. The World Cup was held in Barcelona. The Olympics were held in Barcelona. Why? Interesting, isn't it? How on earth are we supposed to get on as human beings, as civilians, as brothers and sisters in humanity, if we're being told that 1492 was a great year, when Muslims were massacred and thrown out of Spain? You see? So these are the starting points where we need to educate people. A lot of Muslims don't know what I'm telling you now. A lot of Muslims, I've had to tell them and correct them. You know, just Portugal. The word Portugal, where does the word Portugal come from? Portugala. Portugala means the land of oranges in Arabic. It's an Arabic term. So that is a place that had Islamic beginnings or Muslim beginnings. And Cordoba, Alhambra, the palace of Alhambra, it had it has the highest number of tourists in any place in Spain. Not the Costa del Sol or Costa del Brava. You'll find Alhambra, the palace there, where the Muslims had their seat of power and created their civilian, their wonderful, civilizations from there, are the greatest tourist attractions Spain has. And lastly, paella. Does anyone know what paella is? Paella, you know, that rice and seafood and chicken. It's lovely, isn't it? It's a good dish. That's actually a Muslim dish. What happened, they used to pass the plate around the courtyard, okay? Right, like that. And they used to put a little bit of rice on there, a bit of prawns. The next neighbor put something on, next neighbor put something on, until they got back to square one. And they used to give that to the poor in the courtyard. That dish is actually like a charity. So just a few things I wanted to tell you about Spain, okay? Because a lot, and I've spoken in Spain, and many Spanish never knew where the dish came from, and they never knew anything about Muslims even being in their lands because nobody educates them. Even in the schools here, you'll find that no one tells you anything about the history of the Muslims. As far as they're concerned, from the year 700 to the year 1300 were the Dark Ages, and we don't talk about it. It was only the Dark Ages in Europe. I have a letter from a king dating back to the 11th century asking the Sultan in Cordoba, saying, can you please accept my 2 daughters and educate them? You know, because we don't have any places to educate them. So this is a starting point. Let us look as a community, as a group of people who really want to love one another for the sake of Allah. In my terms, it's for the sake of God. Okay? For your sake, I don't know who you love. Maybe you love your daughters and your sons. I love my daughters and my sons as well. But we need to reach out to one another and be honest with each other. Be honest. We need to look at crime. We need to look at alcohol. We need to look at youth violence. Dogs, you know, vicious dogs. Where I come from, in Labut Grove, the Grove as they call it. Yeah man, the Grove. You get me? You understand me, man? Actually, all of this is, you know, what my children are talking, and so I know the lingo very well. In the Grove, per household, you probably find at least 1 dog. You know, and these dogs are they're not like poodles, you know? Poodles you can kick and get away with it. These dogs, if you kick them, you'll lose your foot. I'm telling you. So you go around and we start to look at these different problems that we've got in society. The STDs. STDs, what's that? A dialing code? No, it is a sexually transmitted disease. Okay? These are the things which are happening amongst us, and it's not always being explained by our governments, by our politicians, by our, you know, senior medical people in the right way. Rape, and I want to look at debt. So let's start off with the United Kingdom, which has, in 2004, had the highest burglary figures of 18 EU countries. You see? We have to deal with this, day in and day out. If I leave anything in my car, you know, I leave anything in my car, even an old coat, somebody will smash the window in Labut Grove in London. Yeah? I don't know if it's like that in Newcastle. Is it as bad as that? It's good up here, is it? I should come and live up here, shouldn't I? You got any dogs? Those big vicious ones? Okay, right. That's 2 good things. Okay, we do have massive burglary figures in this country. Okay? And day in and day out, we're worried about who's going to knock on our door. The other night, I was just sleeping, like you do in the night. Yeah? And suddenly, the bell rings from outside, intercom. Half asleep, half awake, push the button, let them in, not thinking. And then this guy comes up to the door, and I look outside through the peephole, like you do in London, believe me, and this guy covers the peephole up and starts banging on the door. Boom, boom. My God. So you know what you want to know about fear? Fear of crime? Is when at 3 o'clock in the morning, someone's banging on your door covering the peephole up. And he's drunk because he's doing this. Yeah? Oh man, he wants to get in, he wants me bad. I phone the police. In Labbok Grove, it's not a good idea because there's not enough of them. So you pick up the phone. Hello, I need you urgently. Please come now. There's a madman knocking on my door. Yes, well, how long has he been there? Look, he's knocking on my door. Why do you need to know? No, I need to really, let's just explain. What does he look like? And look, just get someone over here quickly. I'm worried. Kids are in the other room, just next to where he's knocking, right? Phone goes down. 40 minutes later, he's still there, and the police haven't come. This is the fear of crime I'm talking about, brothers and sisters in humanity. This is the fear of crime that we don't seem to be able to understand is happening. Okay? Eventually, someone comes in the passageway, and he sort of goes off. 10 minutes later, the police say, is everything okay? I'm not blaming the police. I'm blaming me. I'm blaming us. Because we don't work together to have cohesive societies, cohesive communities where these people won't be allowed to do that. It's not the fault of the police. It's not the fault of the social services. It's the fault of us. Neighbors, one another, loving one another for the sake of God, like I said. Muslims, you should be that. Christians, you should be that. Jews, you should be that. Humanists, you should be that. And we have a better society for everyone. Shared common futures, like they say. You get me? You get me? How about the kill? Turn on any PlayStation. Any 3D, whatever it is, bloody game, and on the computer, on the silver screen, wherever you turn it on. The kids are killing kids, and the kids are killing characters, and the characters are killing the kids. Bang! Sawn-off shotguns. Not recommended. Yeah? Big vicious dogs. Ugly monsters. Terrorizing our children. Most of it, has to be said, comes from America. Gang culture comes from America. Comes from, I'm not blaming the Americans, I'm blaming us, like I said. You've got children, killing children, kids. I can see them in the audience here now, old enough to kill now, homicide, murder. Yeah, killing them. And then you've got some kids killing their parents. This is happening as well. You've got kids killing teachers. This happened in London 2 years ago. Headmaster of the school, he got murdered by some of the pupils. And it's all this sort of, it is this media that we allow to oppress us with, Like I say, the PS2s and the PSPs, and I think the WII, or the Wii, has come in now. And my son has it there, so I watch him play it. And, it's not too bad because it's like the brain trainer and Olympics and stuff like that. So I recommend that one is like the best of a bad bunch. The rest of them, switch them off. Get rid of them. There was one rabbi who was asked. He said, would you allow television set in your house? He said, would I allow an open sewer to run in my house? That's what he said. And there are many people now, they are asking big questions about what we should allow the eyes of young kids to see. You see? On every street corner, there is a woman bending over an object to sell it. This is the truth. In London, you go there, you will find the image of woman is dirt. The image of woman is dirt. Woman is not respected. They are only used to buy and sell. It's true. And it comes also, it's reiterated in this culture of hip-hop and rap. Hip-hop and rap, big time. You see? A woman is referred to as bitch, as hoe, whore, slag. And these are the terms that we should call women by. Mother, darling, dear, maybe, but not whore, slag, slapper. My God. And this is the culture we've let invade us as British people. We used to have something. We used to have some intelligence. We used to have something special that the world loved. And now we've lost something. And we need to get it back. It's my suggestion that we need to spend more time thinking about other possibilities, other ways to share our livelihoods, to share our lives as fellow citizens and human beings of this planet, planet Earth, England, Newcastle. Now, alcohol has been in the news a lot. And I'm not asking people to think, right, that all alcoholic beverages and all drinking is bad. In fact, the Quran, when it refers to alcohol, it says the good in it is outweighed by the bad. Yeah? And it says if you come to a state of prayer, later on it said, in a state of intoxication, you won't know what you're saying. So don't come in a state of intoxication. In fact, the desert Arabs used to be the heaviest drinkers among all the worlds. Because they didn't have any purified water, so they used to drink wine. Right? And when the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, when he declared this verse saying that alcohol has evil in it, don't drink it because you can't think about what you're saying in your prayers, the streets of Medina ran with wine for a few days because they got rid of it very quickly. So in our society it is clear that at least half, if not more, because some of the figures are massaged, you see? At least half, if not more, of violent crimes happen when under the intoxication of alcohol or some other drug like that. So we should consider, how do we go about this? And why is it in Britain, it's, you know, the effects of these alcoholic beverages are much more, let's say, than continental Europe like Spain and France, etc. We need to look into these things. We need to get real and start thinking. Again, 46% of all violent incidents victims believed their offenders to be under the influence of alcohol. Yeah? 39% of all domestic violence cases involved alcohol. Okay? Very, very important figures. British Crime Survey. What about women? It's an incidence now recently that new medical research has taken place since the woman has ventured forth in the workplace, which is a good thing. We need women in the workplace. I'm not saying I want to go and join the Taliban tomorrow. But I'm telling you that when a woman goes out, a man goes out, where are the kids? Who's babysitting the kids? Let's have a look. PSP, PS2, WII, and a stranger you invited into the house. And you don't know him. He doesn't know you. He doesn't know little Jimmy and little Adam. But he wants to know them. Yeah? You get me? Yeah, it's bad. Bad news. So what we're talking about here, of course I'm saying it in that way, but it's very serious. We are allowing our children to be influenced by people that really shouldn't be influencing our children. They shouldn't be looking after our children. And so the woman, when she goes out to the workplace and she's fighting to pay the mortgage, because by the way, in Ladbroke Grove, I don't know what it's like up here, but it costs £750,000 for a 3-bedroom terraced house with a little pokey garden. You couldn't even put a bird flying around it. Right? £750,000. And guess what, guys? You need 10 times that. That's at minimum 75,000 salary just to pay for that mortgage. And that's why this morning I was listening to overwhelming figures amongst the middle class. 57 or 56% of them cannot afford to buy a house now. Okay, amongst the what they called lower class or poor class or working class, 80% can't afford to buy their own house now in England. Yeah? It's the land of freedom, democracy, and we can't do what we want to do, really. You know, we need to start thinking, rethinking, what's affecting us? I'll tell you what's affecting us, HSBC. HSBC gonna make 12.2, or was it 20.2 billion the other day. That was their recorded figures. 20.2 billion. That's why you can't afford your mortgage, my friends. You know? And all of the banks have made huge profits this year, whilst everyone is losing money hand over fist. You see? And yet, when the government were approached by some unions to say that we want another holiday for the workers because they're really oppressed, you know, they said, sorry, we can't afford to lose £7 billion. You see, because that's what it costs to give one day off for all of the people in the country. Bank holiday, they call it, yeah? So, profits come before you and I, you see? 80,000 people working in prostitution in England. Overwhelmingly, most of them, okay, are under the influence of serious Class A or Class AA++ drugs. You know, serious drugs. Okay? What are we doing about these poor people? You see? We're allowing, cannabis to be downscaled. You see? And somebody said the other day, if alcohol was classified, it would be AAA. But no one says anything about alcohol. Because the government makes serious dough. Every year in the budget, £10 on the price of a pint of beer. You know? Okay, we'll have to pay it. Right? So, what's going on? It's becoming more and more difficult to live in the UK. It is. And we need to start changing. We need to get hold of our communities and start asking questions. We need to get hold of our MPs and our councillors and our civic leaders and start asking, what's going on, guys? What is going on? Violence in the UK schools is another really serious issue. Are there any teachers here? Any teachers? 1, 2. I've been into many schools and I've seen the changes from when I was at school in Bristol, Portishead in Bristol, Galdano Comprehensive. You want to phone them and ask them whether I went there? You know, anyway, you don't want to do that. But in that school, I remember we used to have the odd fight, you know? Used to have the odd fight back around the shed, the hard nut of the school. Used to follow him there because we used to see a bit of violence, gratuitous violence, yeah? So he used to go off and knock the other guy on the floor, bit of blood on his face, that was it. Nowadays, you don't fight in schools. You kill. That's what's happening. It's happening. Stabbings in school, okay? In the schools that I know of in London, it's frequent. And now, they're building huge, great big fences, erecting fences around the schools. It's true. And I went to a school and I gave a lecture, and the head teacher said to me, as you're leaving, can you please make sure you lock the door because they will all escape. This is where we're living. Why is it happening? Why? Why can't we rethink these things? We know things are going wrong. We know things are progressively getting worse and worse. The government massages the figures. And they pretend that it's not getting worse. But year on year, decade on decade, it's getting worse. And everyone tells me, oh yeah, but it was like that back in the day, wasn't it? You know what I mean? No, we used to do those things. But it's not like that. Because the statistics prove it's getting worse and worse. And it's getting more violent. Progressively, day in and day out. You see? 2/3 of teachers in the UK have been physically or verbally assaulted in the past year. 17% threatened with incidents involving weapons. Weapons. A weapon is a tongue. Yeah, a tongue is a weapon. Yeah? Serious weapon. Lethal weapon. But when you start presenting knives, pen knives, pens, whatever they call them, and you start frightening teachers who are supposed to be in a position of authority on you, what's happening? What's that all about? What is it all about? Almost all teachers, 99% of them, said they've been verbally abused by their pupils in the past year, with 74% claiming it happened at least once every 2 or 3 weeks. Every 2 or 3 weeks. What is happening with us? Have we lost the plot? Have we stopped thinking? What is it? We are not being nice to each other. And it starts off with our kids and the relationship they build with their parents. You see? Even my children. I'm not saying that I'm any better than you. I'm not saying because I'm a Muslim that I've got I know exactly what to do. I don't. That's why I'm speaking here today. Maybe some of you guys have got some good ideas about how we can get together and how we can make this society a better society and we can stop these things happening. And I think I've given you some ideas. It's about community cohesion, but it's about real community cohesion, not ticking boxes. Ticking boxes. That's what we're good at, isn't it? I need that funding. Tick! Oh yeah, I've done that. Health and safety. Yeah, I've done that. Outreach. Yeah, I've done that. One day last year, with 4 people when they turned up. We're not engaging, my dear brothers and sisters, in humanity. We're not doing it. That's why St. James's Park is full on a Saturday. And our community centres are empty every day. Our churches are empty every day. Our synagogues and even the mosques will be empty soon. You know? Our community engagement places, the forums, they're empty as well. Over 20% of teachers have been verbally or physically assaulted by a parent. We're not just talking about kids. We're talking about the ones who are addressing the issues of bringing their offspring up into this world. So, look, if Joey is attacking the teacher, what's he doing with his peers? He's killing them. He's killing them. And there was one case a couple of years ago. A 15-year-old kid walked into the classroom and raped the female teacher in broad daylight. You think I'm joking? You guys need to read. Because when I read, I get sick actually. And I've got nowhere else to go. I'm Irish, right? My father's Irish. My mother is a Surrey person, born in Surrey. I've got nowhere else to go. I'm stuck here. I can't go to Afghanistan. I don't know. I can't even read I can't read or write Afghani or Urdu. I can't go to Saudi Arabia because I just see some injustice over there. I can't go anywhere in the world. I've tried. I've traveled in every part of the world. But when I come back, my heart is attached to Britain. I'm a British person. But I'm a person who has endeavors to try and make this society a better place for myself. Yeah, I'm selfish. And for my children and for my neighbors. And the Prophet Muhammad, by the way, he said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam means peace and blessings be upon him, by the way. When I keep saying that, it's not that I got a nervous twitch of the mouth or something. But 40 that way is your neighbors, and 40 that way. You've got to look after 40 over there and 40 over there. If you don't look after them, you get judged, brothers and sisters in Islam. You get judged for not looking after them. And you know what looking after the neighbor is? He said, you're not looking after the neighbor, it's the harm that they do unto you, you suffer it with patience. That's what's looking after the neighbor. Because if you suffer that harm they do unto you, sooner enough they're going to come over to you. Like the Prophet Muhammad said, that when the Jewish girl, the Jewish lady that used to throw rubbish outside his door, one day she didn't turn up. You see? She didn't turn up. So he knocked on the door and he was worried. Why didn't you throw the rubbish today? He said. So he finds that the woman is dying on a deathbed. She's on a deathbed. So this is an indication that as soon as she saw that man who she's done evil to for years and years, she said, verily you must be a prophet. And she accepted Islam there and then. You see, it's not easy to be a good citizen. It's not easy to stand up against the tide. When the tide is coming forward, the first need that you have to is to save your life and jump up on the bank, isn't it? Get out of the way. But we need to stand up against the tide for the sake of our progeny, for the sake of these kids here. In the US, again, this is related very much to what our dear respected honored guest will speak about later on today, that when asking young US black girls, I don't know why they ask black girls, don't ask me, I didn't read the research very closely, but when asking them, those who spent a lot of time watching rap music, listening to rap music, you know, watching all that sort of scene that we've been discussing, they were more likely to binge drink, have sex with multiple partners, test positively for marijuana, and have negative body image. Negative body image, because they're constantly being called whores and bitches. They're constantly being referred to as basically an object of desire. That's what it is. And that is the reality out there in society when it comes to women. It really is. I don't see any different, and in fact it's getting worse. Have you noticed, when I was a kid, I was a paper boy. Yeah? Used to 3 paper rounds. Used to be the richest paper boy in Bristol. And you know what? I remember the pornography was on the top shelf. Yeah? You remember that day when the pornography was right on the top shelf? Nowadays it's on the bottom shelf. Yeah? Nuts. Yeah? The Star. The Sport. Yeah, you can see them all there. On the bottom shelf for all the kids to view. Oh my God, what's that? I don't know. We better find out. Let's ask Mum and Dad when we get home tonight. I don't think they're going to do that. Yeah, this is true. So it's about having respect for our mothers, having respect for the other half of civilization, the women who bring the children up for 9 months. My wife is pregnant. For the last 9 months, for the last 7 months, I've observed the pain, the torture that she's had to go through bearing a child. But the society doesn't value a woman. It's true. The media system uses the image of a woman terribly. We've got to do something about it. I think all of us will agree. Apart from the guys who like to ogle at the papers maybe. But, you know, I saw something really sick the other day. I don't know if you think this is sick, but tell me if you don't. Honestly. A guy was reading The Sun, and he was all open on page 3. You know what's on page 3? It's not football, is it? That's on the back page. So page 3, and he has his daughter, he's holding his daughter like that, and he's got the page open. I'm thinking, what's happened here? Am I a prude? Or is that really happening? You see? And I've seen many cases, even pornographic magazines, guys reading them on the train next to a woman. You know, it's disrespecting them, you see? So we got into this thing. We've looked also at some research between 15 and 17-year-olds. 540 of them were looked at, and they were questioned about their drinking habits, you see? They tracked the drinking habits of 540 young people from 5 secondary schools for over 18 months, and revealed that 1 in 10 of the youngsters felt drinking disrupted their education at crucial times whilst doing their GCSEs, right? First thing is, it's disruptive for them, it's disruptive for the other kids, you know, it's peer pressure, lots of things going on here. 59% were drinking once a week at the start, growing to 80% by the end of the research. 36% claimed that not to have been asked for proof of their age before the study started. And this issue, I'm very serious about this issue. I mean, a lot of the crimes about these dogs that are out in our society never get mentioned. But there's just some of the graphic images of children that have been bitten by Johnny here. Yeah? This is Johnny. Johnny has been biting people, right? And Johnny gets treated better than the human beings in the society. It is true now. My own mother, she loves the dogs more than she loves me, I'm sure sometimes. Maybe it's because it's me, but I mean, but look, how can we stop this happening to children like this? These are emotive figures. But there's been an increase of 40% in the last 4 years to 3,800 a year of people that have been admitted to NHS establishments with dog bites, serious attacks. And many of them, I don't know the figures of how many deaths, but definitely there's been some high-profile deaths, 2 or 3 last year. Okay? Why are we allowing these things? And we're told that pit bulls have been stopped, but there's a whole load of other dogs coming in to replace the pit bulls. Yeah? And when it comes to sexually transmitted diseases, syphilis is something they got rid of in the 60s. In the 60s, when I was born, they got rid of them. In 1997 through to 2006, there was a 1,607% increase in the number of people who contracted syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease. Chlamydia is a disease which you don't know you got. You don't know you got it until you try and have a baby and you find out you're sterile. You know, it erodes your organs from within and you don't know you got it. And that's massively on the increase a lot. But the problem is, many of the people don't even know they've got these STDs because they don't ever go and get checked. Don't go to the doctors. You know, and again, herpes and all these different things are still on the increase, despite big government campaigns to stop, you know, people trying to have sex underage and stuff like that, or without condoms, etc. But the issue is that on the one hand, you give the message out loud and clear, don't do this, it's bad for you, yeah? Say no. You remember back in the 70s, the 80s? Just say no to drugs, yeah? Then all the other media is pumping the message, drink, drugs, sex, drink, drugs, sex, everywhere. So there's a contradiction in terms. Okay? We as a community, not as Muslims, or not as non-Muslims, as a community, we need to do a lot more to address these issues and to try to find some solutions. 73,000 people are living with AIDS in this country right now. A third of them were unaware that they even had the disease. At the end of June 2007, nearly 40,000 men who had sex with men had been diagnosed with HIV. If I am a humanist, I'm not going to let any PC get in my way to tell me I'd like to save your life. If I'm a true humanist, I would tell you the truth. If it's something which is affecting you, it's going to hurt you. I would like to stop that hurt and that punishment happening to you. So I would tell you that this statistic proves something. I'll leave that for you to decide, but over estimated 40 million people living with AIDS today. Okay, 40 million people, right? 3 million deaths in 2004. AIDS in the US is even more stark, right? Around 77% of adults and adolescents living with AIDS are men. And a very big percentage of them, 59%, are people, men having sex with men. And 20% of those are intravenous drug users. So if you add those two figures up of all the men, you'll find that that's nearly 80% of people doing things which really, there should be a question mark about why they should do it. Really, there's an issue. I'm not saying don't allow them in society. No, that would be wrong. But I'm saying I want to help my brothers and sisters in humanity from stopping them doing things which are going to harm them. And if I'm a real honest guy, I'm going to tell you like it the way it is. Like it says in the Bible, it says in Lut, like it says in the Injil is the Gospels, like it says in the Talmud, like it says in the Quran, like it says in every major religious work, don't do that stuff. Because it's bad for you. And the evil that your hands brought forth will cause you no end of suffering. This is true. But you might have your own ideas about that. Look, rape. 1 in 4 women in the world says they've experienced sexual violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. 47,000 women, adult women, are raped every year in the UK. Just a few statistics, okay? Just to bring home to you some of the stark realities of what it's like to live as some of the population to live here in the UK. But it's not all bad, of course. There are many, many good things about living here in the UK. We still have our National Health Service. We still have some education establishments which are worth taking our children to. We still have good universities, which are free to a point. We still have a little amount of corruption compared to what you see, especially in Muslim countries. You can still be a Muslim here better than you can be anywhere in the world. It's my advice to you guys to really start taking stock of yourselves, and we all start taking stock of ourselves to try and find a better way and a better shared future. The problem with rape, of course, is that the figure of actual convictions now is so drastically, horribly low. Only 5.7% as of 2007. So when rapes happen, they don't always get punished, as you know. Looking at debt as an issue, we are living increasingly with the spectre of debt rising and falling out of all proportion all around us. The average family in this country has £5,000 on their credit card. The average family can't really afford to pay the mortgage repayments these days. And if you look at this chart, this is an indication from 1993 to 2007, and this is credit card spending here. This is consumables, others like cars and whatever it is, expensive dresses and watches. And this is secured loans. So you can see from 93 that has at least doubled, if not almost trebled, in the terms of the number of people borrowing stuff to have a lifestyle. And now, you remember back in the days you used to give your house and you used to give all your money to your kids, didn't you? You don't put it in the will. Now what you do is you sign over your mortgage repayments. That is a reality. It is a reality. And you know, I can't afford a house. I'll never afford a house, as far as I'm concerned, unless tomorrow the house price, you know, plummets severely. You know, I don't think it's going to do that somehow. But it's a frightening thing. When questioned, 2,000 people were questioned in a BBC survey about 2 years ago, and 1 out of 6 of the people that was questioned said they regularly lost sleep because of their debts, their mounting, spiraling out of control debts. Why is debt such an issue? According to UNICEF, around about 30,000 children die each day due to poverty in the world. Yeah, I need to relate it because this is a global economy. We live in a global economy. What happens here in Newcastle and London ultimately affects what happens in Africa and in the developing countries, in the developing world. So we can't ignore it. 30,000 kids dying every day. For every $1 in aid, the developing country receives $25. $25 is spent on servicing the debt. You know, just paying for that $1. It's called interest. What used to be called in the Bible usury. Remember that term when we used to read the Bible? Usury. Oh yeah, what's that, man? Usury. Oh, we call it in Arabic, they call it riba. Riba. And riba is interest. It's when you make money out of money. That's why the HSBC makes so much money, because we are borrowing more than we've ever done before from these people. We're borrowing from these people, and we're not paying it back. They're paying 15, 20 times, 30 times the amount back when we give them $1. That's the reality. This is why we have a life here. 20% of the world's population in the developing nations consume 86% of the world's goods. That's us, by the way. We're amongst the 20%. We don't know what we've got. We haven't got a clue. Now, I worked for an international relief and aid organization, and if you see what the people have got over there, you will respect yourself so much. I think it should be standard, par for the course, that every child who goes to a UK school here needs to spend a week in a refugee camp in Somalia. You will then understand what you've got. Yeah? I reckon we should make that as part of the curriculum. We have to understand what people don't have and what we have. Almost half, Kofi Annan said that almost half of the world's population lives on less than $2 a day. 31 billion batches of Prozac. This is the next issue. 31 billion, or million, shall I say, million batches of Prozac were prescribed in 2006 in England alone. We have become a nation of also very depressed people. And the funny thing is, the crazy thing is, it's not just the poor, like they classify working class, who are in that category. No! It's very rich and famous and well-off people. You know, like Robbie Williams, is it? That guy, the crazy musician? Robbie Williams. He's addicted to Prozac, wasn't he, at one stage? May Allah guide him and help him. And all of these people that we see in the media, the pop stars, the multimillionaires. You know, they recently said that Prozac actually, and many other names that, you know, medical sort of generics that we won't talk about now, actually they don't do too much either. They're a bit like placebos. There's a new study which is saying this as well. So why are we becoming a nation of depressed people as well? We need to look into this, and we need to try to work towards finding shared common values, shared common futures, you know, using every ounce and every little piece of advice that we've got from the greatest academics, from the greatest philosophers, from the greatest people in the world that we know, people that have made it their life's worth to study and to make our life better in this world. So what's the answers? Imprisonment? Harder punishments? Is socialism the answer? Is capitalism the answer? Or should we look at it a different way? I want today to do something special. I want you to imagine that you've got rid of the Daily Express and the Daily Mail, and your local journalist has not contacted you for a while, and you turned off the press, turned off the televisions, turned off the internet, and you just start to look at a few things. When it comes to rape, I want to show you this. This is a verse of the Quran, one of the verses of the Quran. It says, it's called the light, Nur, 24:31. You can read it yourself, it's in English. They, the believing women, should draw their head coverings over their bosoms. Right? And the Prophet Muhammad says, tell the wives and the daughters of the believing women they should put on their outer garments. That is most convenient in order that they may be recognized. It says here as Muslims, it's not the right translation. And not be molested. So what this actually indicates, that what God says is that if a woman draws her veils over her, dresses modestly, yeah, she doesn't get molested. Now, if you look at the statistics in a country where women tend to wear less, and a country where, for instance, we're not going to use Saudi Arabia because it's a bit extreme in terms of, you know, there's stark differences, but look at a country which is slightly less prone, women are wearing more, you'll find that incidents of rape are much, much less, and much less. I'm talking about, if you look at New York City, the number of rapes that happen in one day in New York City it takes a whole year to happen in Saudi Arabia. I happen to have those statistics, so I've done the research there. But, you know, why? Because the woman is covering herself. So it's good for a woman, and the man should cover, of course. Yeah? Shouldn't be just the woman's responsibility. Shouldn't be that the woman, because it says in the verses that, oh, believing men and believing women, lower your gaze. Lower your gaze. So the woman and the man has equal responsibility in making sure that rape, incidents of rape and stuff like that doesn't happen. And that we don't want women to be raped, we don't want them to be manhandled, we don't want them to be called slags or whores or hoes. No. We want them to be respected, and they should be, they're the ones, for goodness sake, who will bring up Johnny and Adam and Sue and Ahmed and Sumaya. Right? Those are the ones. 9 months, then 3 years of weaning, and then 25 years, some of them 40 years. You know, the kid never leaves home. Back in the Moroccan families up in Labatt Grove. Yeah? They never leave home. 25, 40, still got married, they go back home. You know? So it's about a guard. That's what hijab is, by the way. That's why you see some women wearing hijab. That doesn't mean to say they're necessarily any better than the ones wearing hijab. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they wear that, and I want to explain that issue. Okay, that's explained. Hopefully you've got some really good questions and some really searching ones for me, because I need to be searched. Come on, police officer. Oh, right. The word used for intoxicants, right, is khamr, intoxicants or alcohol. Right? There's a statement that towards the end of the days, alcohol will be known by every other term apart from intoxicant. So you got vodka, you got rum, you've got martini, I'm showing my age here, beer, whatever it is. You've got all these different terms for alcohol. But it's a well-known fact that alcohol is an absolute poison to the system, to the body. That's why you go dizzy and you start vomiting, because you poison your body, isn't it? And in research, we found that many people that researched and asked, why do you drink? And particularly women, they drank to socialize easily. Okay? So they relax more, and then they can talk to their friends more. Yeah? So khamar is from the root word khamara, which means to cover. In other words, khamar covers your social responsibility. So as a human being, when you want to do a crime, you drink lots. Yeah, or you drink lots and then you decide, let's go and do a crime. Or you khamar, you cover yourself. Yeah? That's why the Arabic word is khamar. So, O you who believe, intoxicants, gambling in the altars of idols, and the games of chance and abomination of the devil, and you avoid them, that you may succeed. And then they ask you about intoxicants and gambling, say, in them there is a gross sin and some benefit for the people, like I mentioned earlier on. So there are some benefits. You see, God says that. He doesn't deny it. Because right now they're saying, well, 1 glass of wine a day is good for you, isn't it? Yeah, they say that. But the problem is, from 1 glass, you end up drinking 5. Because I know, I've been there. I used to, every night, 1 glass, oh yeah, hey, John, man, let's have another beer. And it just goes on, and then by the end of the night, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have had that last one. Oh. And you walk home and, you know, things happen. When you're drunk, things happen. One day, I was walking in Soho in London, and I asked the policeman the time. Big mistake. When you're drunk, it's a big mistake. Because we were shouting, I was with some Australian guys, yeah? So I was, hey man, how you doing? And I did a little jig round the police officer. He rugby tackled me to the ground, bang! That's it. I got a good kicking. I'm telling you. Because I was drunk. I was being irresponsible. Stupid. You know? Only one to blame. Me. Number one. You see, so drink. I'm saying that I'm trying to tell you that this is another angle on it. That's all. And you guys, you go off and do what you want because it's a free country, free world. But there's another angle. Prophet Muhammad said, when he's talking about what he terms, which we don't see now as illegal sexual acts. Yeah? That's when a woman and a man who's not married in the eyes of the law, Sharia or British law, whatever it is, they're not married, and then they go off and they perform, you know, they have sex. Yeah? He says that the performing of illegal sexual acts would lead to the coming of new diseases not seen before. I think that's self-explanatory. You know, I've already explained that there is AIDS, and it's rapidly on the increase. And nowadays, brothers and sisters coming together, they're not through marriage at all. They're through anything but marriage. Yeah? So maybe we need to start thinking about bringing marriage back. Because, you know, marriage has many benefits for the married couples, for the children, for the neighbors, for the wider community. If you look at it, it really does. Okay? So let's have a look. He said, Abu Huraira is one of the companions of the Prophet. You see? He said, he reported that the Prophet said, a time will certainly come over the people when none will remain who do not devour usury. If it does not devour it, if he does not devour it, its vapor will overtake him. He says that there is usury or interest will be consumed by most of the people. But those who don't consume it, the vapor of it, the smell of it, it will be all around them and all encompassing. And now there's nobody that hasn't signed a credit card agreement. You see, in the credit card agreement, that is straight away riba or usury. So the only way to get rid of that is if all the Muslims pay their 2.5% zakah. It's called a tax on wealth, zakah, 2.5%. If they pay that, it will get rid of all the world poverty. Not anyone else paying it, just the Muslim, 1.6 billion of them. If the Gulf Arabs just pay it, it's all finished. All the world poverty is finished forever. Just if they pay that 2.5%. But they're not paying it. See? That's why we're in a mess. So, and I'll end with a couple of statements from some Western intellectuals. H.G. Wells, War of the Worlds, he said, the Islamic teachings have left great traditions for equitable and gentle dealings and behavior, and inspire people with nobility and tolerance. These are human teachings of the highest order, and at the same time, practicable. These teachings brought into existence a society in which hard-heartedness and collective oppression and injustice were the least as compared with all other societies preceding it. Islam is replete with gentleness, courtesy, and fraternity. And George Bernard Shaw, one of my favorite guys, 1936, he said, this is just 18 years after the Ottoman Empire had gone forever. He said in Genuine Islam, Volume 1, Number 8, if any religion had the chance of ruling over England, nay Europe within the next 100 years, it could be Islam. But, you know, why did he say that? He goes on to explain. I've always held the religion of Muhammad in high estimation because of its wonderful vitality. It's the only religion which appears to possess these assimilating capacities to the changing phase of existence which can make itself appeal to every age. I've studied him. He's a wonderful man. And in my opinion, far from being the Antichrist, he must be the savior of humanity. Okay? Why did he say that? Because this man is a learned man. He read and he read and he read. He didn't read necessarily the media. Right? He might have read it at the time, but he was reading also around the whole issue. Yeah? And he read the books as an open playing field. Just like I have to read all the stuff when I go to university. I can't pick and choose what I read. I have to read all the stuff on the curriculum. Yeah? A lot of the books that you see on the curriculum, you won't find any of this stuff written. That's the problem. So we need to go and search it out, and then we will understand each other better. That's really, it's all about what I started with. It's about community cohesion. He says, I goes on to say, I believe that if a man like him were to assume the dictatorship of the modern world, he would succeed in solving its problems in a way that would bring it much needed peace and happiness. I have prophesied about the faith of Muhammad that it would be acceptable to the Europe of tomorrow as it is in the beginning to be acceptable to the Europe of today. That clearly, I'm not asking anyone to say, to accept that Islam will take over England. What I'm saying is we should consider the teachings of Islam as being a continuation of the teachings of Jesus, peace be upon him, the teaching of Moses, the teaching of Abraham, the teaching of all the different prophets that ever hit the world. And in some narrations there are 124,000 or more. And we have neglected all of them. Jesus, we don't care about Jesus. To be honest, we left it. For the Muslims as well. Because if you say you're a Muslim, you know very well that if someone cusses Jesus, they cuss Muhammad. But if they cuss Muhammad and they cuss Jesus, you say, don't cuss Muhammad. You shouldn't be saying that. You should be saying, don't cuss that honorable person, Muhammad, and that honorable man, that prophet, that great man, Jesus. And the Bible and the Quran particularly speaks about Mary as being the most pious woman that's ever lived. Okay? So I think this is where we start from. We start from humanity and we end with humanity. We end with, we've all got messages to share. We've all got something to add to the equation, but we need to have this forum, right? We need to open up the community centers again, and we need to come in together and say, look, Johnny got killed, and this guy, this bad stuff happening in society. Can we come together to find out how we can lessen that? Let's help the police. Let's help the civic leaders to try and do a better job and have a better society for all. And with that, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me of anything I said which is wrong, or anything which I've said which you feel is hurt you. But if it's the greater good that I've done by telling you something, you know, then I hope that God will accept it from all of us. And if you want to ask any questions, there's the man. Thank you.